Great to be here. Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this training. We will actually be covering several topics related to NHSN's hospital respiratory data, or HRD. My name is Ali Binder, and I serve as the lead of NHSN's Emergency Preparedness and Response Unit, or EPRU. Joined by several folks on my team and in the branch to give the presentation today, who may be familiar faces to some of you here in attendance, Andrea Cool, Emily Witt, and Thomeka Oyebade. Okay, so we will cover two overarching topics related to NHSN's HRD today. The first will cover running and modifying HRD analysis reports. This will include some information on creating, modifying, and interpreting analysis reports, as well as using the reports to assess completeness of reporting. And the second topic will cover data processing and quality assurance. So with this, we'll go through the different submission pathways, as well as the front-end business rules and requirements for submitting your data, as well as an overview of our data processing steps that we take once we receive the data in NHSN, including how we reconcile data and aggregate it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Thomeka and Emily to get us started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ali, for that introduction. For today's presentation, I will provide instructions for modifying and running NHSN hospital respiratory data reports within the patient safety component, and Emily Witt will explain how these reports can be leveraged to access reporting completeness status for CMS requirements. Next slide. Okay, and Ali, go back one slide and another one more. Okay, all of today's data, all the data in today's presentation has been created in a testing environment and is for training purposes only. Information seen on the slide images during this presentation do not represent any actual data submitted to NHSN by participating facilities. Next slide. So the objectives for today will be identify specific HRD analysis reports found in the HRD module folder, understand how to modify HRD analysis reports, to interpret calculated HRD metrics, and the last one would be to understand how to access reporting completeness using the HRD module. Next slide. All right, so before we begin the full training today, I just want to first ask a couple of general questions to gauge the group's familiarity with the HRD data or hospital respiratory data. Okay, so while I ask the questions, if you would just drop some emojis, or yes or no in the chat, or press, thumbs up or thumbs down, unsure or something in the chat if you're unsure of your responses about your familiarity. So the first question is, are you familiar with NHSN's hospital respiratory data collection? Oh, we got a lot of thumbs up. All right. Fantastic. All right. And the second question, have you ever assessed or ran an HRD analysis report in the NHSN application? Okay, wonderful. So y'all know what to do, huh? Well, if you're not really sure, then hopefully you'll gain some knowledge from this presentation today. Next slide. So on the next few slides, I will walk you through the process on how to create and modify reports using this data. Next slide. The NHSN HRD data reports can be found within the hospital respiratory data folder. Users can generate 2 reports of their facility's HRD hospital data. The first one would be line listing daily hospital respiratory, and the second would be line listing weekly hospital respiratory. You can either run a report with default settings, choose to modify report settings, or export the underlying data sets for that report. Next slide. In the next few slides, I will walk through the various options available when you select Modify Report. These modifications will display tabs for customizing specific aspects of the analysis report and how the reports are organized. Next slide. As you can see on the tab Title/Format, highlighted in green, you may customize your report by changing the title of the report, which will be the file name if you choose to save it. You may also choose from 4 different file format options to export your data. Next slide. The Time Period tab allows you to select a specific time period for your report. To restrict a report to a specific time period, select a date variable from the Date Variable drop-down menu and specify the beginning and ending date for the desired time period. If the ending date is left blank, the result will include all data from the beginning time period and forward. Please note, if you do not select a time period, your results will include all data reported for the time period included in your analysis data sets. Next slide, please. Each report allows for additional filtering of the data that will be considered for the report. While the list of variables is dependent on the data sets used for the report, the operation of this section remains the same across all report types. The drop-down menus in the additional filter section allows you to select a variable for filtering by group and/or rule. Each addition of group and rule will allow you to specify values. After selecting a variable to filter, click in the empty box with the drop-down arrow to select the operator. Then specify desired values of that variable that should be included in the report. Various operators can be selected to modify the report. Next slide, please. The Display Variables tab on the modification page is applicable to the line list reports and allows you to select which variables you would like to appear as columns in your report. You can use the option on this window to add or remove variables from the selected variables list, as well as arrange the order of the variables as they will display in your report. Another helpful display modification for users is the Show Descriptive Variable Names option at the top of the report modification window. Selecting this option will update all variable names to use long label names rather than field names in both the modification window and the column names in generated reports. Next slide. Similar to the Display Variables tab, the Sort Variables tab is available only for line lists and allows you to select which variable or variables your report will be sorted by. You can sort by more than one variable and can use the up and down arrows to change the variable sort order. Please note that the variable must be selected as one of your display variables in order to sort on that column. Next slide. The Display Options tab allows you to view your report organized by a specific criteria. There is one display option that allows you to obtain one table per value of the selected variable in a single report. This is known as the page by variable. In the example here, the line list report will include one table for each value of the facility org ID included in the report. Next slide, please. When finished modifying report settings, the user can choose to run, save, or export the report using the buttons on the bottom right of the modification window. Next slide. After you have saved your report, you will then be able to access your reports found in the Custom Reports folder within the Hospital Respiratory Data folder. Next slide. Next, I will discuss how to interpret the Hospital Respiratory Data Analysis report with you. Next slide, please. This slide shows the various components of each of the output analysis reports. At the top of the report, you will see the report name, date, and time the report was created, and the time period of data included in the report. Above each data table, you will see the value of the page by variable associated with each table, which in this example is the facility org ID. At the bottom of the report, you will find a note about the data source and a list of the selected sort variables. Next slide, please. A few important notes about the hospital respiratory data analysis reports. If multiple records are submitted for a particular facility within a single day, each record will be displayed in the report with a unique census ID. A value of 0 in the table indicates that the facility reported 0 for that field, while a value of a period indicates that the facility did not report any data for that field. A value of 9999 indicates that the field is not applicable to the facility. Please note that if a facility does not have any ICU beds, they may enter 9999 to indicate that the ICU bed fields are not applicable. Next slide, please. We encourage reporters to use the analysis reports to validate that reports are displaying information that they expect to see based on the data that they submitted. Customizing which variables are displayed can help users to validate their facilities' data using the calculated hospital respiratory data metrics. These variables can be added to the report using the Display Variables tab. For example, the selected variables have been modified to include the calculated metric, percent of inpatient beds occupied by COVID-19 patients, as well as the variables used to calculate this metric. Next, Emily Witt will be presenting to you on how to use the Hospital Respiratory Data module to access completeness of reporting. Thank you.
Great. Yes. Thank you so much, Thomeka. Just wanted to confirm, can everyone hear me okay? Had some ongoing microphone issues. Awesome. Seeing thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Yes. I hope you all are having a great day so far. Again, like Thomeka said, my name is Emily Witt. I am actually a member of the protocol and training team with NHSN. So I think the only non-EPRU team member speaking on today's presentation for hospital respiratory data. And in the next couple of slides, we are going to discuss a few options in NHSN in order for you to assess the completeness of your hospital respiratory data reporting. Or put another way, for you to be able to assess whether you have submitted all of the required data elements for HRD. Next slide, please. So I know you are all probably familiar with the daily and the weekly reporting options for the HRD module. And I just want to remind you again that you can submit either using the daily or the weekly pathway. You will choose one or the other. You do not need to submit in both. But for those of you whose facilities are using the daily pathway, ultimately the required data will be pulled over into the weekly, and that is what completeness is assessed from. So that is why we are looking at the line listing specific to the weekly hospital respiratory report. Again, if you're using the daily option, you do not need to report in weekly. It automatically is getting pulled over. But just to note that the weekly information is what completeness is assessed off of, and that'll come up a couple of times in the next few slides. So again, this line listing for the weekly hospital respiratory data report is used to assess the weekly completeness of fields that are required for reporting by CMS. And specifically, when you run these reports that Thomeka gave you all of the details on how to do in the previous slides, what you're going to want to look for is the variable week CMS status. And this variable, you can see it here in the column on the line listing example on the slide. It's going to indicate whether a facility has met the requirements for reporting for a given week. And that variable, if you look at that variable or run reports with that variable, you're going to see two possible values. You'll see either a value of complete, as indicated on the slide here, that the facility has submitted data for all the required fields for that given week and has met the minimum requirement for CMS, and then a value of incomplete in that field, a value of incomplete for that variable means that the facility may have submitted some of the data for the given week, but has not met the minimum requirement for CMS. And this might be a result of incomplete data submitted to the daily HRD pathway, or some data submitted via the Healthcare Bed Connectivity Initiative, while other data elements are still missing in the HRD module. So that is what the incomplete information on that week CMS status may indicate, just that for the week, some of the data has been submitted, but it isn't a complete week of reporting for all of the required data elements. Next slide, please. So if you want to look to see what specific values are missing that may produce an incomplete variable in the week CMS status column, what you'll want to do is generate a report of all required data elements and look for fields with a value of just a period or a dot. And I don't know, it's pretty faint here on the slide here, but if you zoom in, you should be able to see that in this column with the red circle around it, each of those fields has a tiny little dot in it. And that means that no data was reported for that field. And how you can produce this report is that you can use the filters tab to filter for records with a week CMS status variable of incomplete. And what that's going to do is just help you more easily identify the facilities or weeks that did not meet the CMS reporting requirement. So when you run that report, instead of having all of your weeks with complete and incomplete in that week CMS status, it'll produce a report that has a week CMS status of just incomplete. So you can then drill down to those specific weeks to see what data may be missing. Next slide, please. So in addition to the line list reports, and this is kind of outside of the analytics, the report sections of HRD, but we did want to note in the next couple of slides that there is another way you can verify a complete submission, and that is directly in the hospital respiratory data module via the calendar view in the NHSN application. And the slide here is going to show examples at the individual facility level. So this is when you're logging into your specific facility in NHSN and looking at your submission for the HRD. And complete reporting is shown by that green record indicator, as you can see in the slide here. So if you are using the daily pathway, and again, just want to emphasize, because this is absolutely a frequently asked question, you can either use the daily or the weekly. You do not need to submit the HRD in both. Either one fulfills the requirements. It is up to you. If you are choosing to use, if your facility is choosing to use that daily pathway, you are going to want to see a green record indicator in each day of the reporting week, Sunday through Saturday, to indicate that your facility has completed an entire week of reporting and has submitted all of the required data elements. So if you are using the daily pathway, when you look at your calendar view, in order to have a complete week of reporting, you're going to want to see this green record indicator in all 7 days, Sunday through Saturday of the reporting week. If you are using the weekly pathway, you're going to see a green record indicator for the reporting week, Sunday through Saturday, and that's going to encompass the entirety of the week. So when you're using the weekly pathway, you are submitting the data elements for that week. As you can see here in the example screenshot, it was the week of May 25th through May 31st. That's a Sunday through a Saturday. And again, that green record indicator shows that all of the fields have been completed for that submission within the NHSN application. So remember, again, if you're reporting in the daily and your calendar view looks like the first screenshot of the week, you are all set. Likewise for the weekly, if you're using the weekly reporting pathway for HRD, if you're looking at the week and you see the screen record indicator, if you open up that calendar view, that means that you have completed all of the required reporting for that week. Next slide, please. So for those of you who are group users in NHSN, who you may be a member of an NHSN group, you can also access a completeness viewer to identify the reporting completeness for facilities within your group for the reporting week. And I just want to make a note here that the completeness viewer is based off the weekly reporting completeness, and it will reflect complete reporting for both the daily and the weekly submission pathways. So once the facility has completed the entirety of reporting for a reporting week, either in the daily pathway or the weekly pathway, that will be reflected in the completeness viewer. And when you are looking at the completeness viewer for facilities within a group in NHSN, so if you're a group user, you've logged in, you're looking at each of your facilities in the group, you will see the record indicator as one of the 3 options that are shown, or not the 3 options, excuse me, the 3 possibilities that are shown on the screen here. So similar to at the individual facility level, a complete record indicator is going to show that complete data submission for that facility has been completed for the reporting week. An indicator saying no records available means that no data has been submitted for the facility for the reporting week. And then an incomplete, that kind of beige yellow, the third one there, an incomplete record indicator is going to show or is going to indicate that the facility may have submitted some data for the reporting week. So for example, again, if it is Wednesday of the week and the facility has submitted, their Sunday through Wednesday in the daily pathway, but they haven't completed the rest of the week yet, you are going to see that incomplete until the reporting week concludes. So that's Sunday through Saturday, and they've submitted all the data elements for the week, and then it should switch over to a complete green record indicator. So that may be one of the possibilities of why an incomplete would show if you're in the middle of a week and the reporting week has not concluded yet. Next slide, please. And here on this slide, we just have quite a few resources available for reports and analytics, both specific to the hospital respiratory data, as well as just some overall helpful guidance at the overall NHSN level for running reports, for NHSN analysis in general, information about analytics within the patient safety component, and so on. So this should be available for you in the handout version of the slides to access, and I highly recommend reviewing these resources. There's a lot of great information there. And that is going to conclude my section of the presentation today. It was great speaking with you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Cool.
Thank you, Emily. Before I get started, can I just get a thumbs up if you all can hear me okay? Wonderful. Well, good afternoon. My name is Andrea Cool. I'm an analyst within the Emergency Preparedness and Response Unit, and I will be introducing details about our processing and quality assurance of data submitted to the NHSN Hospital Respiratory Data Module. Next slide, please. In this presentation, I'll go over the hospital respiratory data submission pathways and front-end business rules, as well as our data processing steps, including data reconciliation and aggregation. Next slide. So as Emily mentioned, users can submit hospital respiratory data to CDC via the NHSN HRD module located in the patient safety component on the application. Data can be submitted through either the daily or weekly pathway. Within each pathway, users can choose to report their facility's data using either the web form entry, CSV upload, or API direct upload options. Next slide. Each reporting pathway and submission method requires certain NHSN front-end specifications to be met when submitting and saving data, including specified data element formats, valid value ranges and response options, and business rules. Business rules are specified checks applied upon submission that flag and/or reject illogical data from being saved. So for example, if a user tries to report a greater number of adult inpatient beds than the number of total inpatient beds, that submission will fail. A full list of all the business rules applied to each reporting pathway can be found on the NHSN HRD webpage, which is linked on this slide. Next slide. If a record is rejected due to failure to meet one or more submission specification, the user will receive an error notification detailing the reason for rejection. The type of notification received will depend on whether the record was submitted via the web form, CSV upload, or API submission. Next slide. When submitting data via the web form, the notification will appear as a pop-up message with errors listed. So as you see on the screen, the error was to do with fields 2A and 2B. And so the error message lets the user know that all hospital inpatient beds must be greater than or equal to all adult inpatient beds. Next slide, please. When submitting via CSV upload, the notification will appear as a pop-up message with errors listed by data element. A notification of errors will also be sent via email to the email address associated with the submitting user's NHSN account. Next slide. And finally, when submitting via API upload, the notification will also be sent via email to the email address associated with the system account in SAMS. And this is also what the email will essentially look like for the CSV upload errors as well. Next slide. I will now go over some additional data processing steps that are performed and applied after data are successfully submitted to the HRD daily or weekly pathways, meaning all reporting specifications and business rules have been met. The first processing step applied is deduplication of records when more than one record has been submitted for a single facility for a specific date or reporting week, depending on which pathway was used. Our downstream time series datasets used for reporting and analytics can only include one record per facility per reporting week. Therefore, our data processing includes a deduplication step within each reporting pathway, where a single record is chosen based on the completeness of the record for CMS enforcement purposes. If more than one record is considered equal based on these criteria, then the record submitted most recently will be retained. Suppression is also applied to deduplicated data in both the daily and weekly data pipelines for values that fail specified logic checks for priority data elements. While many of these checks are already addressed at submission through the applied business rules previously described, this step ensures any logically implausible data are removed from final aggregate metrics used for reporting, analytics, and public dissemination. Next slide. As previously mentioned, NHSN users may choose to submit data via either the weekly reporting pathway or the daily reporting pathway to satisfy CMS requirements. Data submitted to the weekly pathway represent two types of information: single-day snapshots or weekly totals. The 24 data elements within the reporting form sections for bed capacity and occupancy and prevalent hospitalizations are required to be reported as single-day snapshots, specifically Wednesday of the reporting week. The 21 data elements within the reporting form sections for new admissions are required to be reported to account for aggregated data for the entire reporting week, specifically Sunday through Saturday. Next slide. Complete and valid daily data, meaning a record with non-null values reported for all 45 required data elements and passing all logic checks, submitted for a given reporting week to the daily HRD pathway, will be reconciled with data submitted via the weekly HRD pathway. The value reported for the Wednesday during the reporting week to the daily HRD pathway will be retained for the 24 bed capacity and occupancy and prevalent hospitalizations data elements, while weekly aggregate totals will be calculated for the 21 new admissions data elements by summing the values reported each day of the reporting week. The example on the slide illustrates how data reported via the daily pathway for the week of Sunday, June 1st through Saturday, June 7th would be reconciled to the weekly pathway. For field 3A, all hospital inpatient occupancy, only the value reported for Wednesday, June 4th will be stored in the corresponding weekly record. For the field 13C, number of new admissions of patients 18 to 49 with COVID-19, each of the daily values reported for Sunday through Saturday are summed together. This total is then stored in the corresponding weekly record. Next slide. Finally, reconciled, deduplicated weekly hospital respiratory data with logic checks applied are ingested into the One CDC data platform, a Palantir Foundry platform, for further transformation and aggregation prior to analytics, reporting, and public release. Weekly hospital level data are first aggregated to the NHSN facility ID level, aggregating data reported across multiple contexts for a single hospital. Exclusion criteria are applied to remove inactive hospitals and those that are not required to report weekly hospital respiratory data under the CMS conditions of participation. Finally, after exclusion criteria are applied, the weekly hospital data are then aggregated to various geographic levels, including national, regional, and by state or territory, allowing calculation of aggregate metrics, including hospital admission rates and inpatient and ICU occupancy percentages. These aggregate data are published to data.cdc.gov and CDC's NHSN HRD website every Friday afternoon. Next slide. And that brings me to the end of my portion of the presentation. Additional information about the hospital respiratory data can be found at the links provided on this slide as well. Thank you.